Thank you, Sarah. And hello, everyone, and especially warm welcome to all the panelists here today. Let's start with a short round of introductions. Alice, how about you? You go first.
Hi, everyone. Hi, LeadDev. I'm Alice Goldfuss. I'm an SRE infrastructure systems type, currently on the job market, not working anywhere. And yeah, I'm really excited to be here. I've been remote on multiple team setups, and I can't wait to discuss that with all of you.
Thank you, Alice. Katie, do you want to go next?
Hi, LeadDev. It's really good to see a lot of you here virtually again. I am Katie Womersley. I'm VP of Engineering at Buffer, a fully remote team. And we've been remote since day one of the company. We're 90 people in 21 countries. And it's even been tough for us. So I'm very excited for this panel to share some of the strategies we're using. And Juan and I recently co-authored a book on remote work through holloway.com. So definitely check that out too. Juan, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you very much for that semi-introduction. Hello, Lena, Katie, Alice, and LeadDev. It's really, really great to be here. I am Juan Pablo, Buritica or Buritica, however you choose to pronounce it. I am the former VP of Engineering at Splice. I was there for 3.5 years. Right now I'm taking a little break. And before that, I built about 4 distributed teams over the past 10 years. I've never been a full-time remote worker, so that's a really interesting fact there for you. And I'm really excited to tell you what I've learned, at least from building distributed teams.
Thank you. And it's really great to have all of you with this combined experience on this panel today. So I'm Lena Reinhard. I'm VP Product Engineering at CircleCI, leading globally distributed organization at this point, and also for the last 6 years. And yeah, as Katie said, for us, it's also been a change, even though we've been distributed before. And I'm excited to talk about the degrees of changes that all of us have gone through and pivoting to this, a new work environment for many of you, and in some ways for many of us as well. And with that, I would like to start our conversation. The first topic that I wanted to get your opinions on as panelists is basically, what's the situation that all of us are dealing with right now? What are you seeing, especially given that all of you have worked remotely before? What's the current environment actually like? Just get started, Alice. That's great. Thank you.
Sorry. I think that the biggest thing that people need to take away with this, which I think most people have come to, this is not normal. And anyone working remote right now who wasn't working remote a month ago, this is not normal remote life. And I think that's something that needs to be underscored in every discussion we have, because if you are currently working from home now, you are doing so by force. You joined a company that wasn't set up for remote work, and now you're working remote. And so I think the situation overall is extremely stressful, and you are not being set up to succeed because everyone is under stress and under duress. And I think that everything needs to come with that little asterisk next to it, that the situation is not normal, and we are doing the best we can.
Thank you, Alice. And with that specifically, I'd like to ask Katie, you mentioned that things have been different for your teams than they were before. Do you want to go into a little bit what that's meant and how that's manifested for all of you over the last couple of weeks?
Yeah. So this is the first time that our entire team has been affected by something at once. Even the seasons, we have different hemispheres. So we're noticing that we're definitely a lot less productive. I think the idea that if you can just get set up for remote work correctly, you'll return to your pre-pandemic levels of productivity. That is not correct. As Alice said, this is not normal. Working when you're cooped up at home, worrying about an existential threat is very different to working in sort of like normal life conditions. So we have adjusted our expectations for our team a lot. The other thing that we're seeing is, even though we're remote for a long time, there's a real need for knowing how other people are doing. Having more connection, like how are people really, what's happening. There's a lot of worry and a lot of isolation. Of course, everybody is physically isolated, and now with remote work can be a very isolating experience in general. So we're noticing we're battling that a lot more than we normally do on our remote team.
Thank you. Juan, what's your take on the current situation and how it's possibly different from what you've seen with your teams before?
I will piggyback on what Alice said, and it's we're not even working from home, right? We're like stuck at home trying to get work done. I think I'm not going to take credit for that. Someone else. There was a tweet I saw yesterday. I think it was Brian Lyles, if I saw it from. But I cannot. It resonates a lot with me. I am not working right now. I am at home, but I can feel the stress of the world. So recognizing and accepting that this is the state that we're in, that we're going to try to keep our companies moving forward, our work moving forward, our peers being unblocked. But we have kids at home. We are worrying about our parents. We're worrying about many things that we don't have to normally. So that on top of trying to figure out how video works and maybe interrupting each other over calls and who's going to pop into this meeting, it's just a lot. It's a lot. So we're all work in progress and we're all figuring out. So take it easy. This is what I can say.
Thanks, y'all. Yeah, I think we're all figuring this out, and this is not normal remote work, but this is working remotely during a global pandemic. Is I think a good framing for the rest of our conversation. So over the next couple of minutes, the main topics the panel and I want to go over with all of you is basically, first of all, how to start out. So what are the most important things to think through now? Then once hopefully the dust is starting to settle a little bit, how to settle into the new normal, because that's what things are becoming right now, the new normal, and how to navigate that. And then also, what does it mean to be a leader, a manager in a time like this? And talking a little bit about values and other principles that we're using to guide our thinking and our work right now. So let's start with, how to start out. So both for individuals, so engineers and tech leads and folks who don't have management responsibilities, as well as for leads, can all of you please just give me two things that you think are the most important things for people to think about right now, to do right now, or to keep top of mind in their work over the next couple of days, especially?
From an IC perspective, I think the two things ICs need to be taken care of is sort of like put your eye on first. So take care of make sure you're eating breaks, having good posture, ergonomics. Like you're in a new scenario, you have to make sure you're taking care of your health. And then the second thing is over communicate. Tell people when you're walking away from the computer, when you're signing off for the night, and emote more in video calls to really try to put your presence in there with people, because feeling isolated and spiraling on like Slack messages is definitely a thing that happens when you're remote. And if you as an IC can take care of yourself and also try to communicate better with your team and more openly, I think that goes a long way toward like raising the water for everyone and improving the scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Alice. I think especially the point around combating isolation is a really great one. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think as an IC, do these things and be very open with them be very open with your team about what you're doing. So, hey, I need a jumble for a couple hours to take care of my kid because my partner, it's their turn to get some work done. And just be very open about that as your situation. Set your expectations realistically. So if you can do something every day, that's great. Don't try to have the same amount done as what you would have before. And try to keep up the amount of communication you're having with your team, because everybody feels isolated and everybody is struggling and times vary. So if you're feeling good at some point, chances are that there's people around you that aren't feeling good, that are really struggling. And similarly, if you're struggling, there's a chance that somebody on your team is actually doing okay right now. Maybe they can help you out. So being very open about how you're doing, what you're doing, when you're doing it, and then, chunking up your day and being really clear about when you're going to step away and explain where you are with your life.
Those are great points that both Alice and Katie make. I think what I can add is, as a manager, you're probably used to having to not having control of your time. So you may be able to deal with interruptions or deal with someone consuming your time much better than ICs, right? ICs may be used to, 1 or 2 meetings, but uninterrupted blocks of time, because that's part of the job, and it comes with the territory. So being aware of that and supporting ICs in a way that you structure schedules better. Perhaps you get a cadence of days. Okay, everyone, look, we're going to try to do synchronous work as much as possible during the same time zone, because we used to be in our office. Now we're just going to organize ourselves. And as long as PRs are reviewed by noon, we unlock everyone. As long as you've checked your email by the end of the day. So get a cadence of the most important things so people can flow, and the rest they can adapt their day to dealing with life. That would be my first advice. And second, don't be needy managers trying to get attention on Slack and on like every single message that you can get. We need to now give time to people. The walk to the water cooler or to the bathroom where you could make a decision or not, you don't have that available. Sometimes us managers get bored because we don't have work to do immediately, and we start creating chaos. So watch yourself and try to like batch emails or batch work. So you let other people do work.
I think not creating more chaos is a good call out for all of us. And I think also the focusing on the most important thing is probably good advice for anyone, no matter if engineer or in some lead capacity. Katie, I wanted to follow up with you as well, since you've been through this transition with your teams now too, and specifically transition to working in a time like this. What were the most important things that either you did or that you would advise managers do in a shift of a situation like this? And then I'll ask the same of Alice as well.
So 2 things, do what Juan did, and then two specific things here that are very helpful. The first is a sense of purpose. It can feel very difficult unless you're actually a frontline worker to have any kind of meaning in your work when the world is melting down. And I mean, we are a social media marketing product. It feels so trivial at times. So why is it that this matters? Like, why should you care? So instilling that in your team, how their work has meaning during this time. So for us, it's something like being able to help businesses that might otherwise close, keep an online presence going, and keep engaged with an audience that like is actually going to keep them in business. And then the second thing is a very practical exercise you can do as a team lead. So speak to the purpose of the work. And then the second thing, Laura Hogan has a really, really good biceps exercise, which is addressing our core needs at work. And if you go to her website, I'm sure, Lena, you can help us get it into speaker notes. If you go to her website, it'll show you how to do that with your remote team. You want to figure out for your teammates what are their core needs at work and how you can address them. Things like the ability to make choices, or a sense of predictability or control. A sense of belonging. So these are all core needs that humans have. And when these needs aren't met, our amygdala is completely triggered, and it's very difficult for us to focus on the task at hand. So as a leader, how can you address these things very openly with your team and figure out how people can meet these needs that they still have, which are probably all being really triggered during this pandemic?
Thank you. It's a good call out. We'll make sure to get the link into the channel. Thank you. Alice, do you have any things that you think are helpful for managers or leads to focus on at this point in time?
So I think one of the first important things that managers and leads should be doing and fighting for is to assuage their employees' stress over their job. A lot of the people I talk to, one thing they're concerned job is job. And if managers can fight for, say, delaying performance reviews or having the executive team communicate like, you know what, our financials are in a good place, we're not going to lay people off, at least for the next 6 months, something like that, because layoffs are happening and people are scared. And I feel like you can't even expect people to focus on their job and think about how, what they need to set up a remote office if they're constantly worried about being fired because that's what's happening to their friends. So as a lead, as a manager, I would expect people to try and treat people like humans first. And then after that has been taken care of, then rejoin them on the level of, hey, I'm your manager, you're my engineer, how can we continue doing our work?
So thank you. So a lot of the initial response that many of you recommend is basically focusing on the first thing first, making sure there's a sense of purpose, priorities, but then also connecting as humans especially, and helping each other navigate through this huge sense of change and these high amounts of uncertainty and ambiguity that all of us are dealing here. So I want to make a quick call out. If any of you who are listening to this and watching us right now have any questions for us, you can ask them in Slack, in the LeadDev Slack, in the LeadDev live channel. And we'll take a little time later to answer those. And we'll also be able to answer some more questions after we've gone off the live stream. So LeadDev live channel, any questions you want to ask us, we'd like to hear from you. So once all of the first moves, having to pivot really rapidly, having to maybe order new laptops and other home office equipment for people, which I know a lot of people have gone through over the last couple of weeks especially. So having gone through these initial first weeks of turmoil, teams are starting to settle into what's kind of the new normal, and at least what's becoming the new normal, while we're also all still figuring out what exactly that looks like. And of course, the environment around us is still very rapidly shifting. So what I'd like to talk about with all of you next and hear from you about is how to get through this, and specifically how to start developing good habits. There are a lot of things where I think the experience that all of you have with working remotely come in now, where you know what matters, what helps teams be effective, even when things are really hard like they are right now. And I'd like to hear a bit more on that from you. So what do you think are good habits, good practices for teams to look into developing over time, regardless of difficult circumstances that we're dealing with now? What have you seen work? What have you found useful over time with your teams?
Over time, hopefully it has a good ergo setup and has into a good routine. I think something that's really helpful is making sure that teams still have time to socialize with each other. I think that's something that is really missing out between going from on-site to going to a remote, is you no longer bump into people at the water cooler, you no longer just chat with people at lunch. And when we're no longer in a shelter in area, one of the things that I think works excellently is organizing mini summits for the team. This is assuming you don't go back to an on-site or people can leave their homes in some way. Having teams congregate in person is great. If you can't do that, having some sort of lunch together where you buy your team lunch, like you DoorDash credit or something, and you say, hey, order in lunch, we're all going to eat together, something like that, I think it goes a long way to kind of mutual ties, and it also frees up conversation that people wouldn't usually have. Have unstructured time is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, big +1 to unstructured time. Buffer has 3 time zones, so twice a week. Every 3 times, I'm saying this so badly, we do unstructured time. We do it twice a week, and we offer 3 time zone options. So we have an APAC time, a Europe time, and a America's time that you can just hang out with whoever happens to be on Zoom. And there'll always be one person there to kind of make chit chat, or there'll be someone in the Zoom. We organize that, but otherwise it's just unstructured hangout time. And then a really good thing to figure out as your team is your communication protocols. What is synchronous? What is asynchronous? And then what are your expectations for communication? So are Slacks replied to instantly, or is Slack treated as a semi-async, I'll get back to you at my next break or by the end of the day? Similarly with email, is it that you expect an email to be replied to within an hour or within a day? What are your team expectations around that? And Juan Pablo has a lot more on that. So do you want to add anything there?
It's a perfect lead. Perfect segue. So in this time, I'm going to advise most people to do the opposite of what we wrote in our book. So Katie and I, as you mentioned, we just published a guide. And there's something that is really, really useful eventually when we want to consciously build a distributed team, but we're not doing that right now. Right now, we're reacting. So what Katie says is extremely important, being explicit about how we communicated a team, where we communicated a team, how we read or how we don't read, or how we communicate status or the work that's being done, all these things. Where it's happening, it's really, really important. But the advice that I'm going to contradict myself from the guide to today is, in the guide we tell you, try to strive towards asynchronicity as much as possible. Today, and in the next few weeks, as you build habits, don't rush to using asynchronous means, because you'll probably drift apart, and that'll be a space for miscommunication. I think Katie says it really well. In a distributed team, the default is miscommunication, and you're working against that. Right? So everything you're thinking about is, how do we make sure that this is not miscommunicated? Any assumption, you don't leave any assumption in the air. So I'd say build habits around cadence, around when you're doing specific work that other people depend on, be explicit about it. Continue to be synchronous, right? If you have meetings that were in person, still have them. You still have stand-up and other things. And little by little, think about what the outcome of each meeting is. For example, stand-up, our purpose, the purpose for stand-up is to stay aligned and in sync. How can we do that asynchronously? And then try it out, experiment over time, so you can recover a little bit more of your life. The other thing I would advise probably to managers is, I would really be considering a 4-day week more than anything, so that people know when to plan for their life. Like, okay, Friday, I will take care of all these things that I can't. And Monday through Wednesday or through Thursday, I'm going to go be all in at work. Or maybe 2 days, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I have a break, Thursday, Friday. That would be really impactful for productivity and for people's lives, right? You can balance things a little bit better, and then you go back to normal. That's a couple of things I'd say.
I think it's an interesting point you're making about focusing on humans and connection. That picks up something we had earlier already, over optimizing process right now, where basically best practices that you'd otherwise recommend for teams aren't necessarily kind of the first toolkit you would utilize right now. I think that's a really, really interesting point that all of you kind of touched on in some way. What have you seen teams do about decision-making especially? I want to ask about decision-making because this is a time where a lot of people are in distress for lots of reasons. Maybe that toddlers are running around at home, they need to reorganize how they care for elderly or for children, or or dealing with physical or mental health issues or others, which also can exacerbate issues around who owns things on teams, who gets a say in which things. What would your recommendations be for people on teams as well as for leaders around specifically how decisions get made, how things are moving forward?
Well, I would suggest you really lean into a philosophy of done is better than perfect. If you can make any kind of forward process that is better than the ultimate decision or like the perfect solution. One of the things that our team at Buffer uses a lot is the mantra, if you can reverse it, do it. if a decision is irreversible, that's not a great time to lean into done is better than perfect. But for the most part, that's not the case. Most decisions are very easily reversible. And most often what makes more of an impact on your overall business is the pace of decisions being made, not necessarily how good those decisions are. So if you can empower specifically your ICs to make a lot of decisions as opposed to, asking for a manager, I think that's a good practice to have in general. But it's specifically in a situation that's very interrupted. It might take a long time to hear back. You really don't want to have that very, very strong permission-seeking culture where you have to get sign-off from 3 people before you can do anything, because you'll just go nowhere. So if you can reverse it, do it, would be a mantra that I suggest would work for a lot of teams.
Thank you. And with that, I'd like to move on to talking a little bit about values and principles, especially for basically how to be a leader in a time like this. I'd like to center this on the idea that leadership can come from anyone, so you don't have to be in a formal management or leadership role in order to lead. I'd like to hear from all of you. What do you think are important leadership values, principles, or just guideposts that all of you have in mind right now as you're trying to either guide teams through this right now, or just in how you think about the situation for yourself and the people around you?
I think one of the best things that leaders can do right now is lead through example, and think about the tone and the environment you want your team to be functioning in, and doing your best to facilitate. So signing off at 5 p.m. or whatever, and making sure that you are not back online at night just because you're working from home now. Being vulnerable with your team, saying if you need to go help with your kid or something like that, like trying not to hide behind a perfect where, because then the rest of your team will do that too, even though people might be cracking underneath, and that's going to cause problems down the line. So really trying to set a tone for your expectations for how the team's going to be functioning or not functioning, and doing your best to be an ideal there and lead from example is what I would think.
Juan, do you want to go next?
Sure. I'd say the connection to our humanity is really important. Some of us are probably going to have to share some really difficult news with people, make some really difficult decisions. And this is an opportunity for us to set the precedent how we lead and how we treat people when we have to make difficult decisions, right? Finding out through an email or through a tweet that your company is suddenly making really big changes is not what you should be doing, right? Even though you may be in a position where you need to make fast decisions to salvage a portion of the company, stay in business, some of these things, being very aware of the impact that this will have in the people that you will be making decisions on behalf of is extremely important. And I think the number one and only rule in leadership for me is we never improvise. We practice difficult conversations. We evaluate the impact of leaving people without a job in this time, and how we can mitigate some of this. How would we like to be treated in this case? I think it's important. I would love to not be able to talk about this, but it is a reality, and it comes with the territory of being in positions of authority. And so we should do it with respect for everyone. So that would be my advice, at least. Katie, about you?
So something I saw on Twitter that I really liked as general leadership advice, and I think it's really applicable now, is look after things in this order: people first, your product second, and your profits third. Of course, you might need to be making layoffs because of that. That's sort of a profit motive situation. It's to stay in business. That doesn't mean that you have to do that in a profit first, people last way. You can still have a people first approach to whatever you do. So I found that really helpful, because you want to be really thinking, how is this going to affect my team right now? What is the human impact of this? And then secondly, what is the impact on the product? And then thirdly, like what is the profit motive? This is a situation where your team is going to be extremely you're not going to be able to undo what you're doing. They're going to remember this forever. They're going to remember how you led during a time of crisis, and you can never take that back, and there's no do-over. So don't be the person that's remembered as, you know, a terrible psychopathic leader, but just because you're stressed and it's a pandemic.
It's a good call out. Yeah. One point I'd like to add here to connect with what all of you said is, aside from not being a bad leaders, especially in difficult situations, one conversation that I've had a lot with my coach has been the question, what kind of leader do I want to be? And especially in times like these, when there may be difficult decisions to make, but also the situation continues evolving. It's not like things have changed and now the change is done, but the situation continues changing. And as leaders, it's our responsibility to continue staying on top of that, staying informed, passing information on to our teams, making sure people are able to stay in the loop. And with that, I think thinking about, what are my values? Who do I want to be as a leader? And as Katie, I think, said, is what do I want people to remember me by? Because I think those can also be really helpful framings to guide our actions in especially times of high uncertainty and high change. So I want to thank all of you first for your contributions so far. I'd like to move onwards to some questions that we've gotten from the audience. We won't be able to tackle all of them. I want to thank all of you for submitting so many questions, but we'll try and get to a bunch of them, and we'll also be online, I think, after, so we can address a few more in Slack directly. The first question I want to ask all of you, and I'll just have any one of you take this who's interested in, is there's a question from someone who's just starting out as a manager this week for the first time in their career. Congratulations, first of all. And they asked, do we have any tips for doing that in this environment?
I would be vulnerable with your team, with whoever you're doing one-to-ones with, and say, look, I've never done this. This is my first week. What do you think I should do? What are you most worried about? Like, your team generally has a strong sense of what they want to see from you. They know. So you could ask them and then they'll tell you. So that would be my number one tip. Don't act like you know, because they know you don't know.
They'll find out.
Yeah.
I'd say that by being here, you've already taken a really good step, because you came here to learn and you're asking questions. The difficult part about becoming a manager right now this time is not going to be the remote aspect, but rather the stress. So the advice I give new managers all the time is, you're a junior manager and assume that you need to learn absolutely everything from scratch. You may have been a very senior engineer or a very experienced engineer, but now we're kind of back in square one, and follow awesome people like Lena and Katie and Alice, who have a lot of leadership advice. And it takes time to become a great manager. So take it day by day. You'll learn. You'll sometimes be someone's worst boss, but you'll eventually become someone's best boss, and it'll be worth it. So one step at a time.
Probably just to connect with one thing that came up a few times is focus on building connections, building relationships right now, because those will also help you and the people that you're working with get through this time better. And they're a foundation you will need to rely on anyway. And I think Alice also had something.
Just if you want more long form, I always like to recommend The Manager's Path by Camille Fournier. It's a really good read, and you might have more time to read right now, so give that a try.
Thank you. The next question is from someone who doesn't manage teams or people, I think. The question is, what are remote frameworks or tips or tricks that a lead developer who owns technical decisions can keep in mind?
I would say you have even more politics right now. You have to... Everyone says, oh, I don't like politics. Well, politics are how decisions get made. Politics is just decision making, sorry. And now that you're no longer just sitting with someone at the lunch table, you have to reach out proactively and discuss things with people and really make your case and it's going to take more effort and it's going to take more time, and you have to really put yourself out there and your ideas out there and come up with a good design doc and be really good at distributing it in order to get people on board with making those decisions. And that is a little bit of extra effort that you might not have had to do before because you could just lead through your in-person charisma, and now you can't do that. So you need to work on doing that.
Yeah, I would also just add, ceteris paribus, everybody is going to look like a lone wolf right now. So even if you've never thought that was you, like it's probably going to be you right now. So don't do that.
I have nothing to add. This is already great advice.
Then let's move on. Thank you for that. I would like to add another 3 questions because we only have 8 minutes left, unfortunately. The first one was about managing expectations upwards. The question is, how are you managing expectations upwards, in particularly with getting the greater organization to understand that productivity will be down? Go.
Well, first, if you don't mind, you can take a very engineering-centric approach and think about observability and how you need to make all systems and all processes observable for people. So let's say you have 5 teams and all of them used to start a stand-up everything at a different time. And it may work really well for the 5 people who are in each team. But when you are further removed from this, it's really hard to guess where work is at. So shifting towards starting iterations on the same day makes it very easy to observe the system from outside. I don't have to question and to go debug the teams and ask, hey, where are you at in your iteration? The entire organization knows where we're at. Practices like this are very, very helpful. So publishing the status of where work is at, assuming that you are all on track unless there is an emergency, just creating these little habits and little processes that help the organization as a whole observe itself is really, really useful. So you can use Slack as a log for things, but don't use it as a place to make decisions, for example. Choose another place where everyone knows where decisions are going to be made, maybe a thread app, maybe an email, maybe a shared document. Those little very explicit communication channels can help your organization function like a system. It is a system, and it'll make it very easy for everyone to be informed, to stay informed, and to move forward.
Kind of piggybacking off on that, instead of talking about how to go upwards just within your team, a friend of mine who's a manager has been doing this wonderful thing where at the beginning of each sprint, she asks her team, what's our pandemic point system? Like what's our pandemic tax, I think is what she calls it. And so she asks her team basically like, how are we feeling this week? Like, what do we think we can get done? And they say like, oh, I don't know, it feels like a 10% tax. And then she just takes 10 points off their sprint and tries to do her best to give them that padding so that they can still, get the kind of feedback of a burn down chart, but without having to work at full productivity, because that's not going to happen right now.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to call out that the topic of expectation setting has been a theme through a lot of the responses here as well. So through visibility, through communication, through being upfront. And that's probably something for anyone who's currently going through this to specifically think through as a larger theme and how you're approaching your work right now. One last question I think that I want to go over is a more meta one, if you will. So those of you who have unexpectedly moved to remote work, is this the long-awaited culture shift to remote for everyone? I see facial expressions, but someone has to say something.
This is so weird. I feel like everyone's going to be so heavily put off. Yeah. Alice, sorry.
It's fine. People are going to be put off. People, like companies are going to go, oh, well, clearly remote's terrible because, during a plague while your children were home, you ship on time. So the thing that I think is important to take away from this experience is possible. And for years and years and decades now, companies have been telling people, people with disabilities who can't leave the house or who need special accommodations or who don't work in San Francisco, they've been told, well, you can't work for us. We just can't make it work and make it work. And I think that's the big takeaway. Not that everyone should be working from home, but that everyone could work from home, at least in tech, and that we can accommodate that. That is the takeaway that I want people to have from this experience.
I absolutely agree with what Katie and Alice say. I'd say, or at least my concern is people taking this experience as the default for remote work, and then there will be some trauma at the end, right? Whenever we get over this, working at like from whatever the same space that you were living this experience may bring some trauma, and you may relate that to remote work, and that's going to be. I see this as many sort of influencers of remote work consider this being great. I think we're probably going to be set back a little by having this experience, this collective experience of really bad working from home during a pandemic. So let's take it day by day and see how we end up on the other end. But let's stop pushing this remote work is more productive and all the best. And let's get through this first.
Katie, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't have too much to add to that.
That's fair. Yeah, so this probably connects. Oh, sorry, did you want to add something?
No.
Remote work is hard. The lags are real, people. So this probably also connects with what we started this conversation out with basically, is this actually normal? So this isn't companies pivoting to remote work. This is companies and all of us adjusting to very difficult and challenging circumstances and trying to do the best and trying to, be as productive as we can. I'll be honest, I'm not the most productive person I've ever been in my work life right now. That's just what I'm dealing with here as well. And I think it's the same for many of us. So we're almost at time. I just wanted to go over the biggest points that I've taken from this, because I've learned a lot here today, and maybe many of you have too. Focus on humans and connection over optimizing processes right now. Done over perfect. Try to keep increments small. Try to get things changed. Probably don't change everything at once, because we're also already all dealing with a lot of change as is. But yeah, done over perfect and not trying to get everything to 100%, especially if it's reversible, as we've heard. Consider using things like a pandemic tax or other ways to manage expectations for your teams, but also for the people around you, maybe the people that you're managing upwards with. Don't improvise as a manager. If there are things that are difficult right now, difficult conversations you need to have, practice those, get advice from people, get guidance from others. And yeah, look into observability. I think the term resonates with a lot of us for all systems, but also for processes as well, and make sure to keep work visible. And empower the people who are closest to the problems, help people make decisions themselves, and drive things forward for the business. So yeah, thanks all of you. Thanks to Katie, Juan, Pablo, and Alice. It's been great having you here. Thank you for your time today and for sharing your lessons learned with us. And with that, and thanks to all of you for being here, of course, as well. It's been such a small space, but I know you all are out there. Thank you. Have a good rest of your day. And with that, back to Sarah.